Hello, good evening, and welcome. This is the Spring Street Music Room, and I'm your host, Roxanne McDaniel. And tonight we've got a special guest. Pastor Alan Huff is going to be joining us for an evening of original material. And a portion of tonight's proceeds will go to support the JAMA Food Pantry in Jonesboro. And Alan will be able to tell you a little bit more about that as he takes over the show. We'll keep a description in the video description. We'll keep a link to our PayPal, so if you want to make a donation, you can click on the video description and do so anytime you feel fancy. A bit of news here at the Spring Street Music Room. You know, we've got our new website up and running. It's at springstreetmusicroom.ucraft.site, and you'll be able to keep up with all upcoming events on that website, as well as browse our online store. We have a variety of t-shirts and accessories available. And we've also got a busy concert season coming up. Things have been a little slow lately, so we've decided we're going to change it and start going full steam ahead. We've got a show every weekend for the next 8 weeks. So get ready for a lot of live music and a lot of fun. We hope that you'll join us. That's about all the news from me. So I'm going to play a quick tune, and then I'm going to turn this thing over to Alan. I'm going to start off with a little dulcimer tune called Sister's New Shoes. So that's all from me right now. Without any further ado, I would like to welcome to the Spring Street Music Room stage, Alan Huff.
Thank you so much, Roxanne, and thank you to Mike for making me feel at home here tonight. This is a new thing for me, and I'm really grateful to be here. And this is going to be a lot of fun for me, and I'm particularly grateful that Spring Street Music Room is willing to share some of their proceeds tonight with the JAMA Food Pantry. And the pantry is out at Persimmon Ridge Park, and it has been in existence for quite a few years. It predates my coming to Jonesboro, which was a little over 10 years ago. And we serve anyone within a particular area of Washington County. Our decision some years ago was to limit that area so that we could help people more substantively close by in the Jonesboro, Telford, south central areas of Washington County. And so people, right now during COVID, people are driving up and we're loading up their cars with boxes of food that come from donations from people like you in our churches and from the USDA and items that are purchased with the money that people donate to JAMA. So we're, on behalf of JAMA, I'm deeply grateful to the Spring Street Music Room for being willing to share half of the proceeds tonight with that organization, and so thank you all. And so we'll remind you throughout this evening that you'll have an opportunity to give to that.
Oh, could you let them know that our PayPal is not a typo? There's no M.
Okay, yeah, Roxanne says that the PayPal sign on there is not a typo. There is no M. There wasn't room for it. So if you get to the M and put it on, you've gone too far. That's what Mike says. So that's what you see on there is correct. So, well, I'm going to play, as Roxanne said, some songs that I have written. COVID has been hard, so I haven't written any, hadn't felt as creative in the last 10 months as I was, but I'm grateful to be able to share some of these songs with you tonight. And this first song is called River Time, and I wrote this one for my kids, Ben and Elizabeth. They both have spent several seasons up in the interior of Alaska as professional fishing guides. They haven't done that in a number of years, but it was always exciting, and I got a lot of vicarious enjoyment out of that. And when they'd come back, they'd bring wonderful stories of things that they'd seen, people who had come from all over the world to fish with them, and then they told us about bears and moose and eagles and fish and all of those interesting things that they see up there in Alaska. But one of the most interesting things that Ben talked about was, what they both talked about, was the land of the midnight sun, was the fact that on those longest days, the sun didn't do what we're used to seeing and just make an arc across the sky, but it just literally made a circle in the sky. And that longest day, it might dip down below the horizon and for just a few minutes, but it was never completely dark up there in those longest days. So the image of that was something that got into my mind. When they came back from their last time in Alaska, they ended up on the Nolichucky River for a while. They were on the Innoko River in Alaska fishing for northern pike, and they both live in Johnson City now, but I'm glad to have them close, but they just have a thing for the river. So this is called River Time. Summer in Alaska, where I stood outside of time, like an eagle on the wing, the midnight sun drew circles in the sky. Miles and miles from anywhere, the wide world opened up. The Eden's air charged my blood, and the river filled my cup. Fur and white trappers hold their baggage to the boats. The fish and water stirred the ancient wonder in their bones. I found a sacred river running wild, cutting through the bedrock of my mind. She called me to her faithful flow, and on her banks I make my home. So here I am, just living on river time. Here I am, just living on river time. Now I'm down in Tennessee on the Nolichucky Gorge. Cold water flowing through those blue hills between the rocky shores. The forest hovering over me like a promise from the past. She says when the river floods, turn to me to find your rest. From Alaska I have traveled to these Appalachian coasts. The water leads me onward, there my heart will know that the sacred river keeps on running wild, cutting through the bedrock of my mind. She called me to her faithful flow, and on her banks I make my home. So here I am, just laying on river time. Here I am, just laying on river time. Well, I launched my raft into that flow and trust myself to what the river shows. That given time all mountains fall, and in the end the ocean welcomes all. 'Cause the sacred river keeps on running wild, cutting through the bedrock of my mind. as she calls me to her faithful flow, and on her banks I make my home. So here I am just living on river tide, and here I am just living on river tide. That's probably the most recent song I've written. It was last spring. Back in 2018 and 2019, I spent a week in May each of those years down at the Highlander Center down near New Market, Tennessee, just north of Knoxville, for John McCutcheon's songwriting camps. And it was a cool experience to be with people really from all over the world, not just from all over the area. And most of the week is spent writing with other people, very short songs, and listening to John talk about songwriting and telling stories from his experience and sharing his knowledge with us. And but sort of the at the end of the camp, what we did was split up into pairs and got to know somebody a little more in depth, and then was write a song just for that person. And the last night we sat around and sang the songs that we had written for the particular people. And this was one of those songs that I wrote in 2018, my first time there, for a guy named Charles Green. And Charles Green he grew up in Waco, Texas. And John said, do your homework. So I did. I looked up Waco, Texas, and learned a couple of interesting things about Waco. And number one, Waco itself, the word comes from a Spanish word which means, like a hole in the ground, a mine shaft or something. And also, the Brazos River flows through Waco. And the full name of that river is actually the Rio de los Brazos de Dios, which means the river of the arms of God. And Charles told a story about having grown up there and in the 60s when the civil rights movement was going on and dealing with, struggling with the attitudes of friends and family alike that were making it hard to be a person accepting of all people. And he had to struggle with that in his own family. And one of the people that was influential to him was a grandfather who worked on the railroad. And the grandfather was able to kind of break across those lines. He was a man of faith, but he was illiterate. So one of the lines is that he knew only of the Bible what he could hear. And so that's what that's about. But Charles had an interesting story about his experience particularly with his mother on this. But this is called Rio de los Brazos de Dios. We'll start over. Born on the banks of the Rio de los Brazos de Dios, the river of the arms of God, I broke into that world of broken arms and love. The world I found was cast in black and white. Sun, we stay right here and them on their side. That made no sense on the banks of the river of the arms of God. 'Cause the world is a bigger place, the heart a deeper space, and I have got to climb out of this hole. I have got to climb out of this hole. Granddaddy hands as strong as steel, a heart of gold. Knew only on the Bible what he could hear, it was enough. The tracks he laid weren't lines drawn in the sand. It wasn't the color of skin that made the man. He crossed those tracks to care for the widow of a fallen friend. 'Cause the world is a bigger place, the heart a deeper space, and I have got to climb out of this hole. Yes, I have got to climb out of this hole. I have got to climb out of this hole. Mama, my friends are coming over. We've got some studying to do. Mama, my friends are coming over. I want them to come and meet you too. No, Charles, not in my house. But don't you bring those people through my door. To them I will not offer my hand. Make this go away, or you can. Make this go away, or you can. Son, make this go away, or you can. 3 years later I came back to my home on the river of the arms of God. I came back to that world of broken arms and love. The look on Mama's face, it cut me deep. Her light green eyes welled up with joy and grief. She did not ask why, she just offered up her hand to me. Now the world is a bigger place, the heart a deeper space, and I have got to climb out of this hole. Yes, I have got to climb out of this hole. Yes, I have got to climb out of this hole. 'Cause the world is a bigger place, the heart a deeper space, and I have got to climb out of this hole. Oh, I have got to climb out of this hole. And I have got to climb out of this hole. Out of this hole. Right here on the banks of the Rio del Brazos, the Rios. Following a similar theme to that one, this song I wrote two very, very different things, influence on this one. One, I have a friend here in in Jonesboro whose mother is a war bride from World War II. And because she came from a different culture with a different language, some of her twists on some sayings that are familiar to our ears are kind of fun to hear. And one of those, as she's been taking care of her husband, has been "Until death do we live," which is that one caught my attention, and my friend thought that was fun as well. And for some reason, I don't know why I did this, but I paired this up with some of the emotional response and eye-opening experience that I had at a conference on trying to dismantle racism. So I hope this works to put these two together. But this is called "Until Death Do We Live." Sophie and Billy met on the worn streets of their town and found the love they had to hide till that nosy sun went down. Behind a church, a graveyard offered life among the dead, and wrapped in friendly darkness they shared heart and soul and breath. They made reckless promises in hopes for years to come, and dreamed of living in the light, and of building their own home. And Sophie sang to this world, "Let us die a living death, so we can give our whole selves a priceless gift, for until death do we live." Billy looked down at his class ring and the football etched in gold. He feared his love for Sophie was a danger to them both. See, on Friday nights he wore the colors while town folk cheered him on. Between the lines he was their hero, rising star and favorite son. But every other day Billy's skin defined his world. The fair-skinned Sophie was in love no black man dare deserve. Still Sophie sang to this world, "Let us die a living death, so we can give our whole selves a priceless gift, for until death do we live." Billy knew that stay or go, Sophie suffered all the same, and only if he stayed could he help her bear the pain. So Billy paced among the graves and argued with the ghosts, his demons blaming everyone beneath those cold tombstones for leaving him and Sophie to face the heartless ridicule, while for their sake and others they died into the truth. And now Billy sang to this this world, I too will die, living death so we can give our whole selves a priceless gift. For until death do we live, yes, until death do we live. Thank you. Well, it's cliche to say it, I know, but 2020 has been really rough. But let me, before I do that, I got the signal here to remind you that if you feel so inclined, we would very much appreciate for the support both of the Spring Street Music Room and of the JAMA Food Pantry. If you wouldn't mind making a donation through the PayPal account that you see on your screen, that would be a great blessing to both of us. So thank you. As I was saying, 2020 has had its rough spots for all of us, and for my family, we had one pretty big, wonderful thing to go on during 2020, and I became a granddaddy in 2020 back on October the 11th, and Porter Allen Huff is just about perfect, and before we knew whether it was a boy or a girl, I wrote this song. And a couple things to know about that. Ben, our son, he was born on September the 21st, 1989. And if you're from Charleston, South Carolina, you probably have that date imprinted in your memory. That was the date that Hurricane Hugo hit. And we lived in a little town, the town of Statesboro, Georgia, which was about 60 miles up and inland from Savannah, where originally the storm was heading. And so we were going to a birthing center, little town just outside of Savannah called Rincon. And we decided to go on down there, even though all the excitement was just offshore. But we were the only car heading that direction. Everybody was coming to Statesboro to stay in the high school and the other schools there, and for shelters, emergency shelters. But we all made it through just fine, at least in Savannah. It moved north. But so you need to know that about this song. And also, Porter's mama's name is Mercedes, and Mercedes means mercies. So this song is called I Love You Now. 30 years ago, your daddy and Hugo the hurricane crashed into our lives one night with howling wind and rain. That rough and tumble little boy with his bright red curls used to take my hand in his, soon it will be yours. Peeking through those morning clouds, I see some baby blue. And as the sun rises, I think it could be you. And life, it is a miracle each day, a gift of grace. And oh, how I love you now, though I've yet to see your face. Mama met your daddy on a river in the hills. Beneath the stars they fell in love and shared their first kiss. Waters through the river gorge, may mercies ever flow from her heart and soul to you, and follow where you go. And now the sun shines bright upon the dogwood dressed in pink, and I smile imagining who else you might be. Life, it is a miracle each day, a gift of grace. And oh, how I love you now, though I've yet to see your face. The minutes turn to days, the days to weeks and years. So too the joy and the wonder can't escape the fears and the tears. Well, I can't know what joy you'll bring or how you'll make us change. And what matters most of all is this one simple thing. Life, it is a miracle each day, a gift of grace. And oh, how I love you now, though I've yet to see your face. 'Cause life, it is a miracle each day, a gift of grace. And oh, how I love you now, though I've yet to see your face. Yes, I love you even more now that I've seen your face. Well, this song needs a little more introduction. When we lived in Georgia, when both our kids were born there, I was teaching school, taught middle school and high school for 6 years, and in the county where I taught, we lived in a separate county, about 25 miles between the two towns. And in the county where I taught, where my wife was born and raised, her family has about 260 acres of farmland, woods and farmland out in South Georgia, and that we thoroughly enjoyed being out there riding the horses, fishing, and her daddy got me into hunting a little bit, and particularly quail hunting was working with the dog was something that I enjoyed an awful lot. But the deer hunted, dove hunted, and just enjoyed doing that, and so I'm an omnivore, but I don't have the dilemma about whether or not to put meat on my own table. And that means I'm equipped for large game, small game, just target shooting. So this song grows out of my concern, after we've had so many issues in schools, and after having taught, and now being a parent and a grandparent. So this kind of addresses that issue, and so I'm really not anti anything. If I'm anti anything, it's anti-idolatry and trying to expect things to give to us that which they cannot give. And so that's where this song comes from. Sammy likes that blue backpack, those high-top basketball shoes. And Jenny's trying on skinny jeans and wondering if she's cool enough to wear them. My mom stands back and watches with wonder in her eyes. How did her babies get so big? And will her joy survive another school year? Miss Jones is only 22, her heart up in her throat. She's fretting through those planning days, 'cause she doesn't want to choke on the first day. Then the principal comes on the intercom, faculty meeting at 10. We gotta go over our plan. If a shooter gets in. Welcome, boys and girls, my name is Miss Jones. We're gonna learn and maybe have some fun. First things first, if we hear shots, here's where we run. Now stand with me, hand over heart, and pledge yourselves to our nation under gun. Jimmy was a scrawny kid, bullied most of his life. The cool kids called him names, and he tried with all his might not to show his tears. When he was 22 years old and numbed down to the bone, well, he found faceless friends online, and with them a home in their bitterness. Discipled in that angry world, Jimmy learned to roar. His new doctrine taught him he would not be ignored by anyone. On a warm September morning, the sky's gunmetal gray, and Jimmy slipped into that school as the teacher began to say, welcome, boys and girls, my name is Miss Jones. We're gonna learn and maybe have some fun. But first things first, if we hear shots, here's where we run. Now stand with me, hand over heart, and pledge yourselves to our nation under gun. Yes, stand with me, hand over heart, and pledge yourselves to our nation, to our nation under gun. I do write a few songs that I can sing and sing at church, and this next one is one that I've actually done fairly recently. Well, very recently at church, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it has to do with about Peter, the disciple, who is the disciple about whom we kind of know the most, and he's a headstrong but perceptive guy, and the line "Get behind me, Satan," which is a familiar line to many of us, comes from a story about Jesus and Peter, when Peter says that no, you're not going to die that way, after Jesus tells the disciples what's going to happen, and there's what Jesus says is, "Get behind me, Satan," and it seems like a very, I think there's a Southern phrase that says the same thing. bless your heart. And so this song is called Taking Up a New Life. Andy and me been fishing that water since we were 8 years old. Daddy had us up and out every morning in the dark, the rain and the cold. For 20 years we lived our days on that same sandy shore. And every day and every fish looked like the one before. Well, I was hungry for adventure, for somewhere else to be. So when that stranger came to town and he said, follow me, well, I felt the wind blow through my hair and a shiver run down my spine. The storms are coming, and he said, beneath that sunny sky. Well, that very day, my brother and me signed on. We didn't know just what to expect, but it wasn't kingdom come. Well, he left, and that's right where they lay, and the boat reached high and dry. In disbelief, our daddy said, we left him there to die. Oh, but something died in me as well when that rabbi showed his face. He cast his nets all over me and pulled me from the lake, and I realized just how much I did not want to change. To follow him, my life would be forever rearranged. Taking up a new life, laying down the old. Never happens all at once, 'cause the end is not the goal. And all we saw and said and did, like compost in the earth, leads the future with the past, making way for new birth. Fishing had been my life work, a vocation good and fair. But Jesus saw much more in me than I had ever dared. Well, he read the waters of my soul like I could read the lake. And he said, fish for people from now on, and rock will be your name. Well, faithful to a fault, to what I thought I knew was real, I rolled a stone across my mind and made certainty the seal. And when I told him he was wrong, well, he looked me in the eye. He said, bless your heart, you clueless fool, me you will deny. Oh, no, that wouldn't hurt. But you see that a rock and a millstone are just the same if to one you are bound. So to teach me to swim, that rabbi let me drown. Now gold and silver have I none, and neither do I need. To know where I've been and who I am shines light on what can be. Taking up a new life, laying down the old. Never happens all at once, 'cause the end is not the goal. And all we saw and said and did, like compost in the earth, piece of future with the past, making think I'm going to play. I'm going to play one more anyway, and we'll see how my voice holds up.
Sound good so far.
So, don't forget that the PayPal is still on there. Anybody who would like to contribute to support these live concerts and to support families who are having trouble keeping food on their tables, a donation tonight will help both of those wonderful causes. So thank you.
So, about 10 minutes, what, 10-minute mark?
Yeah. This is the last. I'll just make this the last song. Why don't we do that? That'll work best for my voice. This is kind of a benediction song anyway. It was a song this is the earliest of the songs that I have written, oldest one that I've written that I've played tonight. And it was written 2001, January 2001, for a friend of mine who I'd not been playing guitar much, and he was a young man who was staying with his great aunt and finishing up his degree at the University of Chapel Hill, in University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. I was in a little town called Mebane, North Carolina at the time. His name is Jason, and I wrote this song as kind of a farewell to him as he was finishing his degree and then going off to do mission work, beginning in Central America, but ended up going all over the world. He and I and my wife and some other friends from the church got a little group together, and we had an awful lot of fun just learning songs to lead worship in, and we even we called it The Gig at a coffee shop in Mebane one time, which was a lot of fun. But this is called Fly On. Dawn has just begun to break, and now the pines across the lake feed the waning ember of late October sunrise. The flock I've watched these summer days glides beneath an icy haze, and urgent is their call to wing toward southern skies. So fly on, my friends, fly on. I thank them for their playful grace, that sowed in this old heart new faith, and opened once again this long forgotten well. As waters flow and feathers spread, I scatter crumbs of broken bread to feed them on their way, and their return foretell. So fly on, my friends, fly on. Fly on, my friends, fly on. Southward now they fly, to pastures green, to water still, where endless are the skies. And fly away, my friends, trust the voice you hear, the song you sing, and the face you'll recognize. Fly on, my friends, fly on. Fly on, my friends, fly on. With eyes shut against their final pass, I open wide my heart at last, and in the whispered rush of winged air I hear the song of those who ride the wind, who love the Spirit's breath within, Standing in the silence now, that voice draws me near. So fly on, my friends, fly on, my friends, fly on, my friends, fly on. I will miss your company and song, but just as you must follow, I must let you go. So may your restless hearts find rest, my friends. May your journey make you whole. Thanks again. I enjoyed this very much.
I just want to say thank you for coming and joining us tonight. It's been really, really wonderful. And thank you to everyone at home who's joined in and watched, and to everyone who's donated. If you still want to make a donation, there's time. We've got the link down in the comments. There's also a link up in the video description. If you need any help, you can always message us, and one of us will be glad to assist you however we can. So, before we play one last number, I would just like to say a big thank you first to Alan Huff for coming and playing for us tonight. I would like to say thank you to Don Berger for all the work he does behind the scenes and all the support he's given this project and me and Mike. Speaking of,
Thank you, Don.
I would like to say a big thank you to our often imitated but never duplicated Mike DeVella running the sound. He keeps everything running. He does all the thinking. I just get to sit. Before we head out for the night, we're going to play a little Wildwood Flower. I'm going to play on the dulcimer, and Alan's going to back me up a little bit on the guitar. And
I'm just going to try to keep up. I'm not
well,
promising anything.
you know, at the Spring Street Music Room, we've got this thing we call the art of the disclaimer, and this is a real good disclaimer. We never played together until about, I don't know, 75 minutes, about 75 minutes ago.
Yeah. And I've never played this song before.
So you're witnessing history right now. Let's do a little Wildwood Flower before we turn in. So that's us all done for the night. Thank you once again for tuning in, and thank you so much for your generosity. From me, Mike, Don, Alan, and all of us here at the Spring Street Music Room, good night and goodbye.
Thanks a lot.